Wayne Gretzky to the New Jersey Devils. In 1988, several clubs chased the Great One with massive offers. The Rangers were in, the Red Wings were in, the Flyers were in. Edmonton owner Peter Pocklington needed cash. Los Angeles won with $15 million in cash, 3 first-round picks in 1989, 1991, and 1993, plus Jimmy Carson and Martin Gelinas. If New Jersey had landed him, the Kings never explode in Hollywood. The Sun Belt push slows. The entire map of the league looks different. Think about the ripple. No Gretzky in LA means fewer celebrity cameras at the Forum. TV money stays smaller. Youth hockey in Southern California grows slower. The Ducks might never exist as a Disney project. Anaheim, San Jose, and Tampa Bay face a tougher climb. Without that California spark, the league waits longer to believe in warm weather markets. The modern NHL's footprint shrinks. The sport stays colder for longer. Bobby Orr's knees. What if they held up? He changed how defensemen play. Then his knees betrayed him after 9 full seasons. He had more than a dozen knee surgeries by age 30. In 1970 to 1971, he recorded 139 points from the blue line. Give him 12 or 15 healthy seasons, and you might be looking at the undisputed greatest player, not only the greatest defenseman. The Bruins probably add at least 2 more cups. The offensive defenseman revolution happens a decade earlier. Montreal trading Patrick Roy. What if they never did? On December 2, 1995, the Canadiens lost 11-1 to Detroit. Roy told team president Ronald Corey he was done in Montreal. On December 6th, he and Mike Keane were traded to Colorado for Jocelyn Thibault, Martin Rucinski, and Andrei Kovalenko. The Avalanche won the Cup that season. If Montreal repaired the relationship, Colorado probably does not win in 1996. The Canadiens might have added another banner in the late 90s with Roy still in net. Soviet stars arriving earlier. In 1989, Alexander Mogilny defected to Buffalo. That same year, Sergei Pryakin came to Calgary with official permission. Sergei Fedorov followed, and the door opened. Move that 5 years earlier to 1984 or 1985, and the league looks different. Drafts include Pavel Bure, Fedorov, Mogilny, Slava Fetisov, and Igor Lariano years sooner. Possession and motion arrive earlier. Detroit gets good earlier. The trap era struggles to take root because skill wins big series sooner. The original 6 never expanding. Montreal, Toronto, Boston, New York, Detroit, and Chicago keep cycling cups. The talent concentration is absurd. Every roster looks like an all-star team. Great prospects never get a roster spot. Gretzky might sit behind legends longer. Quality peaks, but the sport stays small. No Western push, no Sun Belt. Fewer kids see the game. The NHL becomes a beautiful niche instead of a continent-wide show. The 2005 Sidney Crosby lottery. The season before was canceled. The league ran a one-time lottery with clubs assigned 1 to 3 balls based on recent playoff appearances and past first overall picks. Pittsburgh won. Anaheim picked second and took Bobby Ryan. If Anaheim had won Crosby, the Ducks add the best player of his generation to a core with Scott Niedermayer, and soon Chris Pronger, plus Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry. A potential dynasty forms in Orange County. 3 or 4 cups feel possible. Meanwhile, the Penguins were shaky. Within 2 years, they publicly explored Kansas City while they negotiated for a new arena. Without Crosby driving tickets and momentum, Pittsburgh might have moved. Crosby in a Ducks jersey turns the center of gravity to Southern California. The California boom that started with Gretzky gets an even bigger second wave. Quebec Nordiques never moving. In May 1995, Comsat bought the franchise and moved it to Denver. In Colorado, they soon acquired Patrick Roy and won the 1996 Cup in a sweep over Florida. Uwe Krupp ended it with a triple overtime goal in Game 4. Keep the team in Quebec City with a real arena plan, and that banner probably hangs in Quebec. It resets the story of Canadian droughts after 1993. It also strengthens the case for small Canadian markets to stay put through the 90s. Eric Lindros reports to Quebec. In 1991, he refused to play there. 2 trades were announced. An arbitrator ruled for Philadelphia. Quebec received Peter Forsberg, Mike Ricci, Ron Hextall, Chris Simon, Kerry Huffman, Steve Dushin, a first-round pick, and $15 million. That haul fueled the Avalanche dynasty. If Lindros plays in Quebec beside Joe Sakic, the combination is terrifying. The Flyers missed their Legion of Doom era. The Nordiques might have been even better, just in a different style. Arizona Coyotes never leaving. In April 2024, the NHL transferred hockey operations to Utah, and granted Alex Meruelo a 5-year right to reactivate in Arizona if he secured an arena. Subsequent reporting said he would not pursue it. If a proper arena had been secured in the Phoenix area, the Pacific Division would have stayed intact. Utah would wait for expansion. Arizona youth hockey keeps growing with a hometown Austin Matthews as the face. A stable rink could have changed that story. Carrie Fraser calls Wayne Gretzky's high stick on Doug Gilmour. Game 6 of the 1993 Campbell Conference Final in Los Angeles. Early in overtime, Gretzky's stick cut Gilmour, and there was blood. By the 1993 enforcement standard as commonly described, that meant a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. Gretzky would have been out. There was no call. He scored the winner, and the Kings took Game 7. If the call is made, Toronto likely advances to face Montreal. Canada gets a dream final that summer. Brett Hull's skate in the crease. 1999 Stanley Cup Final, Game 6, triple overtime. Hull scored, and his skate was in the crease. The rule that season waved off goals when an attacking player was in the crease. The NHL counted the goal under a possession and control exception that applied that year. The call is still debated. If it is disallowed, Buffalo gets a Game 7 at home with Dominik Hasek. That might have been the Sabres' first championship and a different chapter for a long-suffering city. Steve Smith's own goal, April 30th, 1986. Game 7 in Edmonton. The Oilers were aiming for a third straight cup. Smith tried a pass from behind the net. The puck hit Grant Fuhr and went in. Calgary won 3-2. Montreal then won the cup behind a rookie Patrick Waugh. If Smith's pass finds a winger instead of a pad, Edmonton likely beats Calgary and keeps rolling. The Oilers might have won 5 straight cups from 1984 through 1988. The Battle of Alberta history changes on a single bounce. The 1967 expansion arranged differently. The league doubled to 12 with Los Angeles, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and California. All 6 new clubs were placed in the West Division, which guaranteed an expansion finalist. St. Louis reached the final 3 straight years and got swept each time. Mix the divisions and no expansion club reaches the final for a long time. The Blues lose their instant identity. Later, the WHA formed in 1971 and began play in 1972. The timing still matters. Without the NHL's push west in 1967, a rival might have planted flags first. Vegas Golden Knights expansion rules. In 2017, the NHL gave Vegas the clearest path any newcomer had seen. Teams protected 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or 8 skaters and 1 goalie. Protected lists were known, side deals were allowed. Vegas made the final in year 1 and won the cup in year 6. With old-style rules, they probably struggle for years. Pittsburgh does not expose Marc-Andre Fleury. William Karlsson never scores 40. Florida moved Riley Smith for a 2018 fourth. Jonathan Marchessault was exposed and selected. Those decisions defined a contender. Chicago's salary cap casualties. What if the 2010 Blackhawks stay together? The cup was followed by a sell-off. Dustin Byfuglien was traded. Andrew Ladd and Kris Versteeg were moved. Antti Niemi was not retained. They still won in 2013 and 2015. But if the cap was higher or the math cleaner, that core might have 4 or 5 rings. The foundation was built in back-to-back drafts. Jonathan Toews was 3rd in 2006. Patrick Kane was 1st in 2007. Add Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Marian Hossa, and all that depth. Keep more of it, and the path through the West looks different for everyone else. The 2004 to 2005 lockout never happens. The entire season was lost. When the league returned, there was a hard salary cap, new rules to free up offense, and shootouts to avoid ties. Tampa Bay never defended the 2004 crown. If the season is played, the Lightning might repeat. Or a different CBA arrives and there is a soft cap. Without a hard cap, big markets keep spending and parity suffers. The rule reset is slower. Offense grows gradually instead of in one sharp jump. Mario Lemieux stays healthy. In January 1993, he was on pace for 160 points when he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. He missed 2 months for radiation and still won the scoring title with 160 points in 60 games. If he never gets sick, we might see the first 200-point season since the 80s. More important, a healthy Lemieux anchors the Penguins through the 90s. 2 generational centers on one crest for more than a cameo. The Hartford Whalers stay. They played in Hartford from 1979 to 1997. Owner Peter Karmanos wanted a new arena. The deal never came. The franchise moved to North Carolina and won the 2006 Stanley Cup as the Hurricanes. If Connecticut had built the building, that banner hangs in Hartford. The rivalry with Boston stays spicy across a short drive. The Southeast Division existed from 1998 to 2013 with Tampa Bay, Florida, Washington, Carolina, and then Atlanta or Winnipeg. Phoenix was never in the Southeast. Geography gets simpler, and the New England hockey map looks fuller. Winnipeg keeps the original Jets. They moved in 1996 because of a weak dollar, ownership strain, and an outdated arena. If they had found a way to stay, Teemu Selanne might have played his whole career there. The pick that became Daniel Briere stays. Keith Tkachuk grows into a prairie legend. Winnipeg avoids 7 winters without a team. When the city got the Jets back in 2011, it proved the market works with the right building. Keep the original Jets, and that proof arrives a decade early. Connor McDavid to Buffalo. The Sabres finished last in 2015, but Edmonton won the lottery and took McDavid. Buffalo drafted Jack Eichel second. Put McDavid in Buffalo, and the rebuild probably sticks. He shoves them into the playoffs quickly. The rivalry with Toronto becomes must-watch every time. The Atlantic turns brutal with McDavid down the QEW for Matthews. Edmonton keeps flailing without their superstar fix. Buffalo likely keeps more talent and builds a contender around number 97. Minnesota North Stars never leaving. Norm Green moved the team to Dallas in 1993. Minnesota went 7 years without an NHL club until the Wild arrived. If the North Stars stay, Mike Modano remains the face of Minnesota hockey into the late 90s. The Dallas chapter never happens. There is no 1999 Dallas champion. Brett Hull's famous cup-winning goal happens in a different sweater. The Southern expansion story loses a key proof point without Dallas succeeding in Texas. Boston completes the reverse sweep in 2010. Down 3-0 to Philadelphia, the Bruins won 3 straight to force Game 7, then lost 4-3. If they complete only the 3rd reverse sweep in league history, they might ride the wave to a 2010 title, instead of waiting until 2011. The Flyers face the shock of all shocks. The coaching and roster fallout likely hits faster. The butterfly effect touches Chicago's path as well. One series changes 2 cities. Paul Kariya avoids the Scott Stevens hit, Game 6 of the 2003 final. Stevens delivered one of the most punishing hits of that era. Kariya returned and scored that night, but he was never the same. Before the hit, he was a 100-point artist with blazing edges. Afterward, concussion symptoms dragged him down. If the hit never happens, or if it is called and the tone changes, Kariya likely plays into his 40s. He and Teemu Selanne keep driving elite numbers for years. The Blues never go from worst to first. On January 3, 2019, St. Louis sat last in the league. Jordan Binnington took the net. Craig Berube simplified the structure. They roared all the way to a Game 7 win in Boston and the franchise's first cup. If that surge never arrives, the core breaks apart. Ryan O'Reilly moves. Vladimir Tarasenko asks out sooner. Alex Pietrangelo leaves without a ring. Boston adds another banner. St. Louis faces heavy questions about the market's patience. Seattle over Colorado in 2023. In their second season, the Kraken eliminated the defending champions in Game 7 of the first round. It was the first time an expansion team had ever knocked out the reigning cup winner in its first playoff series. Flip that result, and Colorado's path opens. A back-to-back push becomes realistic. Seattle's belief in a deep, grinding identity takes a hit. The league's view of recent expansion success softens a touch. The 1919 final is played. The Spanish flu outbreak halted the series tied at 2 wins each with 1 tie. Several Canadians were hospitalized. Joe Hall died days later. There is no cup winner that year. If the series is finished, Seattle likely wins on home ice. The city owns a championship in 1919. The Pacific Northwest becomes a historic pillar of the sport far earlier. When the NHL finally expands there a century later, it is returning to a champion's town, not breaking new ground. Toronto holds the lead in 2013. The Maple Leafs led Boston 4-1 in Game 7. The Bruins scored twice in the last 90 seconds, and then Patrice Bergeron won it in overtime. It was the first time a team came back from 3 down in the 3rd period of a Game 7. If Toronto holds on, it wins a first-round series for the first time since 2004. The core changes less. The city loses that scar. Maybe the Matthews era carries less weight in the spring because the past did not hurt as much. The WHA never merges with the NHL. In 1979, the Oilers, Jets, Nordiques, and Whalers joined as expansion clubs under harsh terms. Each could protect only 2 skaters and 2 goalies. Edmonton kept Wayne Gretzky through a personal services contract. If the merger never happens, Gretzky never plays in the NHL. The 80s look nothing like the record books we know. The Islanders may stack more cups. Calgary and Montreal split the rest. The game's offensive explosion arrives later, if at all. Mike Bossy plays 5 more seasons. He retired at 30 with 573 goals and the best goals per game rate the league has seen. Give him 5 healthy years, and he likely threatens 800. He pushes Gretzky's record before Gretzky is done. The Islanders stay dangerous longer. Bossy enters the greatest goal scorer conversation as the standard, not only as a benchmark for later chasers. Calgary's 2004 goal counts. Game 6 against Tampa Bay. Flames fans swear Martin Gelinas scored in the third. Play continued. Afterward, the league said the available angles were inconclusive. If it is ruled a goal, Calgary wins the cup on home ice. Canada's drought ends at 11 years. Tampa's story changes. The 2004 to 2005 lockout debate shifts because a Canadian small market champion changes the financial narrative. Jarome Iginla lifts early. His legacy feels different forever. Ottawa drafts Pavel Datsyuk. Detroit found him at 171st overall in 1998. He became an all-around wizard. Ottawa had plenty of picks before that slot and needed centers. If the Senators grab him at 171, they likely win a cup in the 2000s. Pair him with Daniel Alfredson, Danny Heatley, and Jason Spezza, and the offense hums. Detroit's 2002 and 2008 titles look less certain. The draft steal that became a Detroit legend shifts north and changes a franchise's arc. Dominic Hasek stays in Chicago. In 1992, the Blackhawks traded him to Buffalo for Stéphane Beauregard and a 4th-round pick. In Buffalo, he won 6 Vezinas and 2 MVPs. Chicago kept Ed Belfour, who was great, but not Hasek great. Keep Hasek and the Blackhawks probably lift a cup in the 90s. Buffalo never reaches the 1999 final. Chicago never bottoms out the same way, which means no Toes and Kane in the mid-2000s. The dark years and the glory years both change. Ray Bourque goes to Colorado earlier. He won his cup in 2001 after 21 seasons in Boston. Move him in 1996, and he probably wins 2 or 3. Those Avalanche teams were loaded. Add Bourque to Patrick Waugh, Joe Sakic, and Peter Forsberg, and scoring on them becomes a nightmare. Detroit's 1997 title likely disappears. The rivalry becomes even nastier. Bourque retires with multiple rings and a different seat in the all-time defense conversation. Gretzky signs with Toronto in 1996. After leaving Los Angeles, he chose the Rangers. Family preference and comfort with New York made sense. If he picks the Maple Leafs, every Saturday night turns into a national event. He mentors Matt Sundin. The late 90s Leafs become steadier. The 1999 series against Buffalo might feel different with Gretzky on the power play. The Rangers' late 90s picture changes. The Eastern playoff bracket gets scrambled. Martin Brodeur to Montreal. New Jersey drafted him 20th in 1990. Montreal held pick 12 and chose Turner Stevenson. Calgary used an acquired 11th pick on Trevor Kidd. If the Canadians take Brodeur at 12, they likely hoard cups through the 90s and 2000s. Maybe they even bridge from Waugh to Brodeur without a gap. New Jersey never becomes the Trap-era giant without number 30. Scott Stevens and Scott Niedermayer might sign elsewhere. The sports tactics shift. Mark Messier stays in Edmonton. In 1991, the Oilers traded him to New York for Bernie Nichols, Stephen Rice, and Louis DeBrusque. Messier then captained the Rangers to the 1994 Cup and ended a 54-year drought. Without him, the Rangers probably do not win that spring. If he stays in Edmonton, the Oilers remain competitive into the 90s behind the game's best leader. One guarantee in a conference final never gets made. One of hockey's defining speeches never happens. Jaromir Jagr never goes to the KHL. He played in Russia from 2008 to 2011 for Omsk. He was 35 when he left and still a 70-point threat. If he stays, he likely adds 200 career points. He flirts with the 2,000 mark. The Rangers and Flyers benefit earlier. The KHL loses some of its early prestige because its biggest Western name never arrives. Jagr's legend grows in one straight line instead of in 2 chapters. Cam Neely avoids Ulf Samuelsson. The 1991 hit wrecked Neely's thigh and derailed his prime at 26. He played in bursts and retired at 31. Before the hit, he was a 50-goal destroyer. With health, he probably clears 600 goals and pushes 700. Boston likely reaches at least one more final in the 90s. The power forward role evolves faster because the archetype is active for a full decade, not half of one. Alexander Ovechkin to the Penguins. The 2004 lottery was weighted. Washington won and took Ovechkin first. Pittsburgh picked second and took Evgeny Malkin. Put Crosby and Ovechkin together and you get a decade of dominance. 6 or 7 cups is not an exaggeration. Washington's modern identity never takes off. Pittsburgh becomes the sport's gravitational center, even more than it already was. Every team in the East plans around the same gauntlet every spring. The biggest what if is simple. What if you could change just one moment? Every scenario here throws ripples across everything that followed. Gretzky staying in Edmonton means no hockey in the desert. Crosby in Anaheim means no hockey in Pittsburgh. No 1967 expansion means no modern NHL. Every injury, trade, and draft pick builds the league you watch now. Change one moment and the sport looks unfamiliar. That is the beauty of hockey. It is built on thousands of sliding doors, near misses, and almosts. The game we love exists because everything happened exactly the way it did, even the parts that broke our hearts. If you enjoyed the ride, subscribe for more. I am covering every major sport. Which moment would you change in NHL history? Tell me in the comments.